In this video I'll show you how to create an options or settings menu that allows your players to set the most important things like VSync, full screen setting, the resolution and quality of the graphics. I'll continue from the main menu project I made in the previous video, but don't worry, you can follow along with any project you want. Let's get started. First we need to create the UI widget to display the options menu. In the content drawer I have a folder here called UI and Widgets, and this is where I want to put it in. Right click, scroll down to user interface, widget blueprint, and make a new user widget. Call it WBP_options menu. Double click to open it up. First we need a canvas panel, so drag it in here, and then I want to have a vertical box for all of the buttons and toggles that we need. Click on the vertical box and just drag it in the middle, and for now I want to give it a size of 900 on the X and 500 on the Y, and then on the anchors hold Shift and Control and then click the one in the middle here to center it. Now let's create the first option switcher. Here I need a horizontal box which holds all the elements, and drag it on the vertical box, and then first I need text. I drag into the horizontal box, you can see it here. I want to then click on the text and zoom in a little bit with the mouse wheel and call this some option as a placeholder, and I want the vertical alignment to be at the center. Now on the right side here I want to have the buttons and the other text. These should also be in a horizontal box. Make sure to drag this on top of the other horizontal box, and now here we can see it on the right side. Then make the first button and drag it into the nested horizontal box. Here you can see the button, and let's now select and style it. So for the background color I want to go to black here, click OK, and then for style normal outline settings I want to give it a 5 pixel outline. Now let's put some text in here, look for text, and drag it on top of the button. And now I want to select the text here, and here for the text field I want to put in the left bracket like this, which looks like an arrow, and hit enter. And then I want to do the same thing for the right side, so I can just get this button, Ctrl+C, Ctrl+V to copy and paste it, and then for the text on the right side I want to put in the right bracket. And now they look like left and right arrows. I also want to give these buttons a name, so click this button on the left side and name it button left, and double check that is variable is checked. And for this button, name it button right, and again, make sure that is variable is checked. Now between the buttons, I want to have text again. So here we can just drag the text between both buttons so we get the blue line. And now we have all of the elements that we need, but the layout doesn't look correct. We want these elements, the horizontal box, to float to the right side. So select this horizontal box here, you can see the green line, then fill and make it float to the right side, horizontal alignment to the right. Now we do have a small issue here. We want the text to always have the same size, but what happens now if I select the text block and let's just write selected option, for example, you see that the distance from this left arrow changes. And this doesn't look very nice if we have a menu where every option has a different length. So I want this text to always have the same size regardless of what words we're using here, regardless of how long it is. So I can right click this and I can wrap with a size box. Just look for it, size box, then select the size box, and I have a width override here. And now you can see I can drag around here and it just keeps a certain width. The value that I found right here was 400, and I then want the text to show in the middle, so I can go to the text here, the selected option, and then I scroll down to this justification and make sure it is in the center here. And I then also want to make sure that here on the vertical alignment, we are on the center as well. Now this already looks pretty good and we have the template for our option switcher now. But now we want to have one of these for each option, in our case 4 options that we can then expand upon. Now I'm going to do something I don't want you to follow along with, I just want to show you because this is what other tutorials teach you. They teach you to just take the horizontal box, Ctrl+C to copy, then go here, Ctrl+V, 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 and so on. But what you create here is an absolute mess that is unmaintainable because we have all of these buttons here that we need to take care of, that we need to use with the events, and this is just not a great way of doing it. It's better to create a reusable component, which we can very quickly do. So let me just go back to the first one, and I then want to take this and put this in another widget, which we can then nest in here. So go back to the content drawer, right click here, user interface, widget blueprint, user widget. I will call it WBP_option switcher, double click to open it up, and then here from the options menu, I can select the horizontal box, Ctrl+X to cut it out. Here in the option switcher, Ctrl+V to paste it in. And I want to make sure we're not on fill screen here, but we are on desired. Now make sure to compile and save this, then back in the options menu, I can look for this WBP option switcher and I can drag it in the vertical box instead. Now we have the same thing, but it is much more maintainable and clean. So now we can actually copy paste this, Control C, Control V, Control V, Control V, so we have 4 different options. And if we now make a change to this widget, it's going to affect all of these at once. I do want to have a bit of space between these because they're very closely together. So go back to the option switcher, go to the horizontal box, right click, and I want to wrap with an overlay. And then on the horizontal box, I can put a padding of 5 on the top and 5 at the bottom. But I also have to make sure that the horizontal alignment is set to fill and also vertical is set to fill. Then compile and save again. And now you can see we updated all of these at once and we have a nice gap between them now. Now before working on the actual logic for switching, let us put in an apply and a back button and then show this widget in the actual game. So here, look for button. I can drag it out on top of the vertical box, so it's at the bottom here. Again, I want to style it. So here in the style, normal outline settings, again, give it 5. I can collapse this, and I then want to go to the background color, again, set it to black. I don't want the button to stretch, so I can just click here for horizontal alignment center, and I also want to give it a padding, so padding top, put in 50, so we have a bit of distance here. Now here I again need some text, look for text, and drag it on top of the button, and I want to select it and call this one apply. Then select the button again, and I want to rename it, just called button apply, and again make sure it is a variable. Now I want to do the same thing for the back button, Control C, Control V, and then here call this button back, which we're going to use later, and then also update the text here to say back as well. Now just make sure to compile and save, and we now want to show this on the actual screen in the game. Go back to the map, and if you followed along with the main menu video, in the UI folder you have this L main menu, which is just an empty map. If you started in your own project, you just want to go to File, New Level, and create this new empty level, and then save it and open it up. And you have the same thing we have here. Now to quickly test the level, we can click here and open up the level blueprint, and then here on Begin Play I can create widget, and I select the options menu, WBP options menu, and I add to viewport to actually show it. Now if I start the game, you can see we have the options menu here, and if you followed along with the main menu as well, we actually have both menus at once. For now, let's just hide the main menu. Open up the content drawer and have the GM main menu. Here on Begin Play, just hold Alt and left click to disconnect this line, and now we just have the options menu. We're gonna implement it together with the main menu later. And now we're all on the same page. You can see the buttons interact with hovering. We can click them, nothing happens, so that's one of the next steps. But now I just want to change the actual name of these options that we want to make available. And by the way, you can get the completed project files with the main menu, options menu, pause menu, and credits as a patron. Back in the options menu, we can't just click the text and change it because now this is part of a component of a different widget. It's still very easy to set up, but let's go to the options switcher. We then want to click this here, the text for some option. We want to give it a proper name, let's say text option name, and set it to is variable. Then here in the event graph, what we want to use is the pre-construct event, which doesn't just fire in the game, but it also fires in the editor, instantly showing the changes. Drag out the text option name, get it, then drag off here and set text, this one for the widget, and then connect it here to the pre-construct. But what text do we want to use here? Well, actually we want to create a variable which we can then change from the outside from the options menu. So drag off here, promote to variable, and call it option name, and then drag it here. While it is selected, very important, it has to be instance editable for it to show up in the options menu. And now I can compile and save. If I go to the options menu, you see that it shows nothing now because we don't have a default value, but you see we have the option name here which we can override. Let's just go back to the option switcher. While we have the option name selected at the bottom, let's just call it some option again, so we have some text at least as a starting point. Then compile and save, and back in the options menu, we see some option, but we can then override it here. So let's start with the first one. This is just vsync. Then also rename the component to switcher vsync. Select the next one. This is window mode. And then also rename it to switcher window mode. The next one is then resolution, and then switcher resolution. And the last one here is graphics quality, and then just rename it to switcher graphics. If we start the game now, you can see it's actually showing these names here correctly. And now we want to work on the actual functionality, showing the correct text here and then also updating it when we press the buttons. Now there are actually 3 different steps that we have to take for each option. First, we need to initialize it, then we need to update it, and then we need to apply it. Initialize means that we want to show the correct value that is currently set at the beginning here for each option. Update means that once we click the button, left or right, we want it to update to the different values, and then apply actually saves the changes and applies them to the game. So let's now start with initializing the vsync because this is the easiest one, only having on or off as 2 options. The first thing we have to do is go to the graph, and then here we only need the event construct. I can delete pre-construct and tick, we don't need this. Construct happens when this widget is initialized or spawned, and that is when we also want to initialize the text. And this is actually a lot easier than you might think because Unreal Engine has a great system for us. I just have to look for get game user settings. And this returns a whole lot of settings like the resolution, like the window mode, and other things like that. But we also need to make sure to load settings here. So we get the latest settings. And now I can simply drag here from the return value and look for vsync. And I want to get the is vsync enabled here. Then I can drag it over here. And then from the return value, I want to save this in a variable. So promote the variable. I'll just call it vsync. And this just makes it easier for us to update this with the left and right button and then apply it by having this in a temporary variable. Then I can connect it here and line it up. And I want to double click here to create a reroute node and then double click here again. So we can just have one nice line from this return value here that we can then use on the other side as well. Now I want to use this value of true or false to then update the text on this vsync, right? Instead of selected option, I want to show on or off. So here we have the switcher vsync, and I can drag it out here, the switcher vsync, get it, and then I need to create a function here that we can call to actually update the text. So back in the option switcher, I first have to go to the designer, and then this selected option is the text that we want to update. So I want to give it a proper name, text, selected option, make sure it is a variable, and then I can go back to the graph. Here I want to create a new function on the left side, click on plus, and I'll call it update selected option text. I can then get this text selected option, drag it here, get it, and then set text on it. And then just connect this together. And we can create an input here by just grabbing the in-text and adding the pin to the node here. And then I double click to line this up nicely. And now from the outside, we can call this function and then change the text inside of this widget. Make sure to compile and save. And now back in the options menu, here from the switcher vsync, I can just call this update selected option text, which is the function that we just created, and then connect it here. So if we now just connect the vsync directly here, this kind of works. If we start the game, you can see it says false. So we know the vsync is false at first, and while this makes sense to a programmer, for a player off or on makes more sense. So an easy way to achieve this is to just create a bit of space here, and then here we can type select, and pick this select at the bottom, connect the vsync to the index, and now I can specify the text that I want here for false or true. So false is just off, all in caps, and true is just on, all in caps. And now if I start the game, instead of saying false, it actually says off, which makes a lot more sense. And now we're done initializing the first value for the vsync, so let's now initialize the window mode. I want to keep things clean, so here just select everything with vsync, hit C to create a comment, and just write vsync. And then here, I want to drag these down a little bit and create a bit of space here. And the next thing is the full screen mode, so I can again drag here from the blue line, and then get full screen, get the full screen mode here, and then double click to keep the line straight. And then here I again want to save this in a variable, so promote the variable, and just call it full screen mode, and connect it. And now we want to do the same thing for the second switcher, the window mode switcher, where we update the selected option. So here we have the switcher window mode, drag it out, and then call again the function, the update selected option text, and connect it here. And what do we have to do here now? Well, it is actually quite simple because this is an enum which already has a nice name. So I can just drag here and write toText, and we have the toText, not the toText byte. This is the one we want, and then just connect it here. Now, if I start the game, you can see we have the windowed full screen right here. And that was quite quick. So let's move on to the next one. Again, C, call it full screen mode. Next up, we have the resolution. So here, again, from the blue line, I can get resolution. And I want to get screen resolution actually. And again, double click. And here things get a bit more complicated. Because a resolution is not one of many options, it is actually an int pointer, so it has one value for the horizontal and one value for the vertical. And I now want to create an array where we have the possible resolutions that we allow as options. So here for the variables, click on plus, call this possible resolutions, and this needs to be an int pointer. If we hover here, you see int point structure. Look for int point, this one. And then this has to be an array because we want to have multiple values. So here next to the variable type, click on array and compile and save. And then at the bottom here, we have the possible resolutions. I want to have 4 different ones is a good place to start. So click 4 times. And then here, I want to collapse these and type in the different values that are very common. So I want to have 1280 by 720, which is quite common, 1920 by 1080, 2560, 1440, 2840, 2160 for 4K resolution. Now you could of course expand upon this, but this is a good place to start. Now I want to find the current resolution in our array. So drag the possible resolutions out here and I want to find in the array, connect this here. But you can see it says there is the possibility of -1 being returned if we can't find the resolution. So I just want to prevent this, and in case it is -1, I want to force it to be 0. And a quick trick to do this is to just use the max integer here. And if it is something below 0, it just converts it to 0. And then I want to save the result here in a variable, so promote a variable and call it resolution index, which then makes it very easy to update to left or right. Then connect this here to execute it. And then I want to update the text. So again, here we have the resolution switcher. In the graph here, switcher resolution, drag it out, and then update selected option text. Connect it here. And now if you know how an array works, we can just drag the possible resolutions out. We can get a resolution index. And then from this, we can get a reference and plug this in as the index, and then gives us the correct int point. But I want to show it a little bit differently. So here I can go and format text, and we can specify with the curly brackets, I want to have it horizontal, x, curly brackets, vertical, hit enter, and now we can just plug our values in here. So I can right click this, split struct pin, and then just x for horizontal and y for vertical. And if I press play, we can see the 1280 by 720, which is our 0 index. Again, let's just select all of this, C for a comment, and write resolution. Now lastly, we want to do the graphic settings, so I can drag here again and get overall scalability level. So this is the technical term for the graphic settings. And I can double click here again, drag it down. And here I first just want to put it again, promote the variable, scalability is what I want to call it. Connect it here. And again, if I hover, you can see there is the possibility of -1 again if the settings are custom. So I want to prevent this and just put the max integer here again, just so we can then force it to be 0 instead. And that just makes things simpler. And then again, I want to change this text here for the graphics quality. So here we have the switcher graphics, drag it out, update, selected option text, connect it here. And here things are a bit complicated because we need to define the text for each of the possible options. To see the possible options, we can go to the map. You can click on this performance icon, and then here you see the viewport scalability. The possible options are low, medium, high, epic, and cinematic. So back in the options menu, I want to now create an array with text where we set the name for these different options. So here for variables, make a new one, call it scalability levels. Then here, look for text. And it should be an array. If you don't have an array, click here. And then compile and save. And we have 5 different ones, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then here, first it is low, medium, then it is high, epic, cinematic. And then again, we can just drag the array out, get it, and then here we can get a reference with the scalability index, the level here. So I can drag the scalability on top of this, and then we can just connect the text here. And I can press play, and you can see by default we have the epic settings active. And now let's just put a comment around this again, and I'll just call it scalability. And this is all we need for the initialization. This way, we initialize all of the different options, and if you want to add new options, you can just do the same thing for those. But now I want to make sure that if we click the buttons, we actually update the selected option here and update the text here. Now again, first we want to do this for the vsync because it's the easiest one with just 2 available options. And we first need to go to the option switcher. If you look at the designer, we have these left and right buttons, right? But they don't do anything yet. So let's go to button left, then scroll down, and we have the onClicked event. I want to add this. And let me go back to designer and do the same thing for the button right. And then down here, the onClicked event. But this component is a stupid component. It should only display things and then tell the parent, the options menu, if we press left or right. This component itself does not have the knowledge it needs to actually change the text and everything else. So all we want to do is send out a signal if we press left or right. And the best way to do this is to create an event dispatcher here. So click on plus here, and I just want to call this option changed. And I want to give it an input. Click on plus, off is right. And if it is not right, well, we know it is left because there's just 2 possibilities. And then I can drag this out here, call it, and connect it from left. In the case of left, it is not right. This is correct. And then I can drag it out here, call it, and you see here button right. So in this case, is right needs to be checked. And now all these buttons do is they broadcast a signal on this event dispatcher, which the options menu can then subscribe to. Make sure to compile and save here. And now in the options menu, let's go to the designer. And I want to start with the vsync here. I can scroll all the way down and you can see the options changed event now that we created. So let me click on plus and let me just prepare all of these, right? So let's go back here, window mode, also options changed, go back to the designer, resolution, also options changed, and then here for the switcher graphics, the same thing, options changed. So now we just have all of these prepared, and yeah, I want to create a bit of space. Let's just drag them down here so we then later can put the apply in here. And yes, let's now start with the switcher vsync here. This is actually extremely simple. We just have to get this vsync variable here, drag it out and set it. And then I just set this to is right, because right in this case is on and left is off. And I then just have to update the display again. So here I can go up here and take this switcher, Control C to copy it, Control V to connect it down here, and then just connect the value again here. And all this does now is it changes the variable and it then updates the display again. So if I press play, you can see if I press left, it goes off. If I press right, it goes on. It is that simple. So let's now move on to the window mode, which is a bit more complicated. Let me drag it down. Again, what we want to do is we want to update this full screen mode. So I can drag it out and set it. But it's not as simple as just dragging this in here because we have 3 different possibilities: full screen, windowed full screen, or windowed. So to know if you want to go up or down, we first need to know our current value. So again, full screen mode, get the full screen mode. And all we have to do now is some simple byte math because we know an enum is a number between 0 and 255. And if this goes a bit over your head, don't worry about it. It is actually quite simple. I first want to convert this byte to an integer, like this. And then I just want to plus 1 or minus 1. So here I can just plus to add. And then how do we decide? Well, I can drag off here and get a select. And I want to use this one at the bottom here. And I can connect the is right to this. So if we pressed right, well, true, we want to go plus 1. If we pressed false, we want to go minus 1. And this simply means that if we have window full screen, for example, minus 1 means we go to full screen, plus 1 means we go to windowed. But we also need to prevent underflow or overflow. We don't want to be able to go below 0, and we don't want to be able to go higher than the highest value here. So after this, I can just clamp the integer. And the minimum value is a 0, that is fine. What is the maximum? Well, it is 0, 1, 2. So I can just type in 2 here. And then from this, I can go back to byte from the integer, and then I can connect this to the enum, which then goes from integer to byte, from byte to enum, and then we can connect this here. And yeah, this might be a bit complicated if you're new to programming, but this is the most efficient way of doing it. And after we update the variable, we just want to update the text again, so we can go up here to full screen mode, this here, Control C, Control V, connect this here, and then we can just go from this into the to text. And to show you this again, if I go left, we have full screen, windowed full screen, windowed, and if I press right again, we can't overflow, we can't underflow on the left side either. Now this is also working, so let's move on to the next one, which is the resolution here. And the way of doing this is quite similar, so I can actually reuse some of this, and I can deselect the plus and the clamp here, Control C, Control V, bring it down here, create a bit of space, and then I can connect the isRight to the index, and again, we want to go plus if it's right, minus 1 if it's left. But what value do we want to use here? Well, we want to use the resolution index here, so get the resolution index, and then plus or minus to it, and we then want to set the result also to the resolution index. So connect here, and then after the clamp, again, we want to make sure to then set it. But what is important, the last index here is actually different. And what is it? Well, it is the last index of our possible resolutions array because we might change this later. So it is the number 3. We could just hardcode the 3, but then if we make changes, things break. I would rather just grab the possible resolutions, get them, and then look for the last index here, which updates dynamically if we change the array. Now again, we want to update the text. So let's go up here to the resolution, and then this part on the right side, Control C, bring it down, Control V, like this. And again, it works like this. I can't go further left, I can go right, get the higher resolutions, and I don't overflow, I don't underflow. Now lastly, let's do the graphics quality. And again, we can actually copy paste a lot from here. I want to get the select again, hold shift, get the plus and the clamp again, Control C, Control V down here, and connect the isRight. Now again, what do I want to use here? Well, let me scroll down. We have the scalability. I want to get it, plug it in here, and then again, the scalability, set it to the result that we get here. So I think you can see the pattern, and it is quite similar. Again, the min is 0, but what is the max here? Well, we can again get our array of the scalability levels. We know it's 4, but again, I can drag it out and then get the last index, which changes if we update the array. And now lastly, again, we need to update the text. So let's go here and get this part with the update selected options, Control C, Control V down here. And if we play, you can see epic, high, medium, low, and all the way on the right side we have cinematic. And now I can update all of these, but the settings aren't being saved. If I change things and I exit out, I go back in, it resets to the initial value. So I need to actually save and apply everything that we do here. The first step is in the options menu to go to the designer, and here we have the apply button, select the button apply, scroll down, and then we have the onClicked event here. I want to bring this up here so we have it between the initialization and then between the option changes here. And this is again quite simple. We again have to get these game user settings, so drag off here, get game user settings, and now one by one we have to update them. So first vsync, so set vsync enabled, like this, and we just have to grab our variable, which is what we updated with the left and right buttons. Then again, drag off set full screen, so set full screen mode, go over here, double click to create a reroute, double click again, and now I just have to give it the full screen mode here. And again, we have the variable here that we just updated. Let me put this in here. Double click again to make it clean. Next up, we have the set screen resolution, this one. Connect it. Again, double click. And for this, we need the possible resolutions. And we also need the resolution index here. And then here from the resolutions, we can get a reference. We can put the resolution index here and then connect this to the resolutions. And now, again, double click, keep things clean. And the last one is the set scalability, actually set overall scalability level. Again, you know the story, bring it over here, double click and line it up. And then here, we just need to get our scalability integer here and connect it. And bring it over, double click to keep it clean. But this is actually not enough yet. This only changes it temporarily on this object, but we actually need to save it on the hard drive and we need to apply it. So the last step here is to again drag off here and we can look for apply, and this is apply settings. And I can bring it up here, I can double click and again bring it down here. And you can see this applies all current user settings to the game and saves to permanent storage. So this actually creates a text file on your hard drive where it then saves what we changed here. Now let me just scroll out, select all of these, C, and call it apply to make it very clear. And now to properly test this, let's go back to the main menu here. I don't want to start in the viewport, I actually want to start in the new editor window. This just makes it easier to test the window mode and resolutions. So let me change the window, for example, and change to a different resolution. If I hit apply, you can see it actually updates. And it actually saves the changes as well. If I apply something and I back out, I come back, it still has the same settings because they are now saved. And one small thing I noticed is that this should actually be 3000, not 2000. Let's just go back to the options menu, possible resolutions, and then here change this to 3840. Sorry about that. And now even the 4K resolution here is working with windowed or full screen mode and everything. Now lastly, we want to implement this options menu together with a main menu. And I'll do this using the main menu we made in the last video, but the steps will be similar with any menu you might have made already. So let's open up the level blueprint, delete this, and then you should have a game mode for the main menu, which we have here, the GM main menu. Connect this back again, and now we spawn the main menu here when we start the game. And next we want to make the options appear if the options button is pressed. So first, open up the main menu again in the widgets, WBP main menu, the options button, and then here make sure it's a variable and have the onClicked event. And the function that we want to call doesn't exist yet. I first have to create it on the GM main menu. So below this begin play, I just want to right click here, custom event, and call it switch to options. For now, compile and save, and let's call it before we do the implementation. So in the main menu widget, I can right click get game mode, which will give us the generic game mode, but I have to convert this to a GM main menu, so cast to GM main menu. And this is one of the instances where casting doesn't create any unnecessary hard references because the game mode is in memory anyway, so don't worry about it in this case. And then from here, I can just call the switch to options. Now back on the main menu, I want to do the actual implementation here. So here I can create widget, and we create the options widget, WBP options menu, then drag off here and promote a variable that we can use later, widget options menu is what I'll call it, and then here add to viewport. If we start the game now and press options, we actually have both menus show up. So this part is fine, but we want to hide the main menu, of course, once the options show up. So I have to go up here and make sure before we add it to the viewport, let me create some space, hit Alt and left click. I want to also save this in a variable. So return value, promote to variable, widget, main menu, then connect this here, and then connect this to the right side. And then after we add the options menu to the viewport, we can get the widget main menu, and then set visibility, and I want to set it to collapsed, and connect this. If I start now, I press options, we only see the options menu. This part is great. But let's now go back to the main menu when pressing this button. First, I want to create the event here, so right click, custom event, switch to main. And what do I want to do? I want to get the options menu. I want to set visibility to collapsed for the options. And then I want to get the main menu. And then here I want to set visibility to visible. And now that we have the event here, I want to actually call it from the options menu. I go to the designer, we have the back button here. I scroll down and click on onClicked. And then here I do the same thing, get game mode. I can cast to GM main menu. And then here I switch to main. And back in the GM main menu, let's start the game. I can click on options, I go to the options, I click on back, I go back, and I can keep on doing this. Now, a small problem here is that we create a new options menu every time we press the button instead of reusing the one that we first spawned. So let's make a quick improvement here, get the widget options menu, check for is valid, and use the bottom one with the question mark. Then create some space here and plug it in. And if it is not valid, well, then we create this new widget and we add it to the viewport. If it is already valid, well, then I can just get the widget options menu and I can set visibility to visible and connect it here. And then also connect it here, double click and connect this line here. And now we don't have to respawn this again and again, which is better for memory management. Now this worked great, we can go back and forth without spawning unnecessary menus. Lastly, let's also just add this background image. So in the WBP main menu, in the designer, I can select this image, Ctrl C, go to the options menu, go to the designer, On the canvas panel, Ctrl V and drag the image between the canvas panel and vertical box. And now we have the same image for both of these. And congratulations, you now have a fully functioning options menu, also together with a fully functioning main menu. The next video in the series will be about how to make a pause menu and how to make a credits menu, so subscribe to not miss out on them. And as a reminder, these videos are already available to patrons together with the project files and plugin for this entire menu series. As always, a huge thanks to my awesome patrons and YouTube channel members.